What's up, guys? John Shookman here. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys have enjoyed the few episodes we have up and are really enjoying getting to know me and my journey and my story. And today I want to tell you about getting my first client. We talked about on the last video how I really believe that when you just build your brand and your business organically on social media, it will create success. And so I want to show you how that success started in my business. Again, it took time. I was licensed in August of 2019. I did not officially sell my first deal until April of 2020 and then one in June. So in 11 months, my first 11 months, I only did two deals, but success can still be built from this. And the client I want to tell you about today, my first client, I lost money on. I lost money. I'll be honest with you. I lost money, but it was priceless in what I learned. And so let me tell you about that very first client in my real estate business. I want you to hear this because it is wild, the story. And so actually, it's pretty funny. I ended up showing them 63 homes. And after all that, I ended up splitting the deal with an agent because they bought in Maryland. My commission check was only about $2,000. I probably spent that on gas, coffee, and the mileage, but it was absolutely priceless in what I learned. And if you are a new realtor, I want you to understand why your first deal doesn't have to make you rich. It just has to make you better. So my first client came from a friend of mine through a referral. So my friend Jonathan, who is an operator with Chick-fil-A and a friend of mine, connected me to his parents. And here's the thing. I still remember I believe it was actually Thanksgiving Day or just around Thanksgiving Day that I spoke to them for the first time. And I remember I was at families, it was either on Thanksgiving or right around there because I remember stepping outside of my cousin's house. We were celebrating Thanksgiving. And speaking of this first client, Thanksgiving Day or just around it, and thinking, oh my goodness, I finally got a client. But here was the thing. They were not an easy client, and that's not disrespectful at all, right? They had a lot of things going on. They thought they were going to buy in Pennsylvania and then Maryland, Pennsylvania, Maryland. They were between jobs. And so, here's the thing. They were not easy and the process was not easy, but I was brand new, had no systems or strategy. I was kind of figuring it all out as I went. So one of the coolest parts is Jonathan was very kind to recommend me to his parents, and they were very gracious. But you might say, okay, well, what happened next? Well, we looked at home after home after home, and by the end, we had toured 63 homes. That's right, 63. Most agents, right, probably would have quit or tried to push their clients off to somebody else or just close a deal. But I knew as a rookie that my job was not to sell a house, it was to create an experience for them and to help my clients find the right house. Here's the other part of this, right? So many of you couldn't do that, or maybe you can as a new agent. I could not do that now. I could not show someone 63 homes. I joke with my new buyers and sellers, well, my new buyers. I say, hey, as long as you look at anywhere, because they're always worried about, like, I don't want to waste your time. And I'm like, as long as you are somewhere between my least amount of homes shown and my most, will be good. And they're like, oh, what's your least? And I say zero, because actually, that second deal, which we will talk about at some point, was actually they bought a home during COVID and they saw no homes. They wrote an offer sight unseen on a house. And so they actually settled first, but my first client was this one that I toured 63 homes with. And so here's the thing. I learned a lot of patience in this. I built credibility and I built reputation. Again, the deal, I probably lost money. And if you factor all that gas, wear and tear, the tears I shed, I spent more than I earned. But what I gained was a couple things. I gained credibility, I gained experience, I gained confidence. And, like a lot of this too is I learned how to negotiate, how to stay patient, how to manage clients' expectations. And I learned something bigger. I learned that real estate isn't about making quick money, it's about building long-term trust. And I learned, here it is, guys, the power of social media. So about this time, we started looking in, late November, early December, and they did not settle till June. And so it was a journey. It was a 6-month journey basically to look at homes with them all over Pennsylvania, Maryland, all the things, right? But here's what happened. I kind of a lot of times I'll tell people about social media that it's like faking it till you make it. Now don't lie. I'm not saying lie. Don't be dishonest at all. but you can share anything you're doing in your business. New agents, you need to hear this. You can be doing open houses. You can be doing showings for maybe a client or even agent previews and with, the listing brokers and the listing agent's permission, you could put that on social media. Now you would make a post, hey, checking out this new home at 123 Main Street listed by Sam Smith at eXp Realty or whatever broker it is. You want to make sure you give credit to that brokerage. They own the rights to that listing. But if you just ask, so many agents and brokerage will give you permission. So I asked all the way through that journey. And here's the thing, social media, I'll teach you guys this. It's all about perception. Now, again, do not lie, but share the honest stuff, and people will think you're successful. So, even December, January, February as a new agent, remember, I've made $0 at this point. But I've done a lot of showings, and with permission from the agents, I was posting those showings, online. I still remember an Instagram post where I said, Caden, my son, I said, my little buddy is helping me today to show a house because my wife was still working. So I was like daddy daycare, and I took him to the showing with me. And that started to build credibility, right? I was blessed in a lot of ways because my first client saw 63 homes. You would have thought I was working with 12 clients at the time because I had multiple times each week where I was showing houses, right? But, here's the crazy part. So many people, even that I did my real estate classes with, and other people, consumers out there, buyers and sellers, were like, holy cow, you're crushing it. And so, what I learned so much is that social media is about perception. People perceived that I was successful. Then, I've kind of, and I'll continue sharing this story, but first client actually settled in June, second client settled in April. And then I had 5 deals settle in August, so 13 months into the business. So that was when I started to feel like, okay, I have momentum, I have things going on. But so many of the people that reached out to me and bought or sold in those first couple years found me on social media through an organic post. And they're like, oh, we're looking to buy or sell. Can you help us? Those kinds of things, right? And here's the thing, a ton of open houses, a ton of showings. You guys know, if you're realtors, how much money was I making? $0. But the perception was John was successful. John was crushing it. And so crushing it was success. I just need you to know it's not all dollars and cents, right? It's not. And here's what matters about all of this. Those clients, Jonathan's parents, they remembered that service. I put something up on Facebook a few months ago, and the Jonathan's mom commented how much she appreciated me and how special I was to their family. Right now, that's part of my relationship with my friend Jonathan and helping him. But a lot of it is how I treated them when they bought a home. It is. And they never knew really how much time and effort went into that deal, 63 homes, or how little I made from it. But they didn't need to. That didn't matter. What they do remember is that I served them well. What they do remember is how they were treated. And that built trust. And that trust led to referrals from them, more opportunities, more growth. And so that one deal where I technically lost money set the tone for my entire career. So I would encourage you guys, if you're realtors out there and you're showing homes or doing open houses, it might not be that the deal closes and you make money on it yet, but you can still share that, right? You can, schedule in Showing Time or whatever app you use to schedule showings. You can schedule agent previews and then get permission from the listing agent and their brokerage, right? May I share this on social media? What I have found on social media is, again, like I said, perception is reality. I used to have an agent that worked with me, and they told me this story. They had shared, I think, a buyer or seller that I got under contract, and that night they did a fantasy football draft. And one of their buddies was like, I guess they paid into this league or whatever. One of their buddies said, oh, don't worry about that. You had that settlement or that under contract today. You can pay your fantasy football dues of $100 or whatever. And he said, "Oh, that's actually not my deal. It's John's." But it's just a great point that perception is reality. Anything you share, market updates, agent previews, open houses. Now, again, always give credit if it's not your listing, but you can share that stuff and it builds credibility. You build that success on social media when you share that stuff. So if you're watching this and you're new to real estate, do not get discouraged. Don't get discouraged if your first deal is not glamorous. You might make less than minimum wage on it like I did, but the lesson you will learn will pay off for years to come. And again, I also want you to remember, if you're sharing all of that on social media, the journey, you will look like you're having success. So again, I know I've said it like 100 times. We're not lying, but we are sharing what's happening in our business. I could share behind the scenes here in my office. I could share new listings on the market, again, with the brokerage and agent's permission. I could do some agent previews. I could do some open houses. I could go sit at Starbucks and just, sit there if anyone wants to talk about real estate. There are so many things you can do. Um, and so I would say a lot of you are in your head about this, and we'll talk as we go about how you can create content that your audience will find and, be attracted to. So if you want more real, raw stories about how to grow your business without cold calling, without door knocking, without buying leads, without paying for ads, make sure you subscribe to the channel here. I'll be dropping again episodes Tuesdays and Fridays to help you crush it with social media and storytelling in your business. Let's go. I'm here to help you succeed and grow. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.